Kalimera and welcome to Delphi. And as you can see behind me, there's the Temple of Apollo. I'm here at the Sanctuary of Apollo. It's 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning. I was at the front of the queue and I raced up like a mountain goat. There's plenty of those around here. Because I've been here twice before, and so I knew the time to get here. I knew the way to beat the tourists and beat the tourist buses. There was a load pulling up, but I think they'll take a while to get up. So this is Delphi, first thing in the morning. So there might be some people passing by, so just let them, you'll just bring that noise in as part of it all. But on the whole, there is just us and this silence that's here. So I'll wait till the gravel crunching of the passing person goes by, and then you can hear the silence. And while you're listening to the silence, I'm going to give you a little tour. Okay. Well, a little tour. I'm going to do a 360 anyway. So behind me here is the theatre. And there's ruins all around, and up beyond the theatre, higher up, is the stadium. Because you may not know that Delphi held every 4 years the Python Games, and these were probably second to the Olympics. And so athletes from all over Greece used to come here and train, and actually you can't see it because the sun's about to rise through the mountains over there, but actually on the other side there is the Temple of Athena. Is down sort of across the road and down in the valley a bit, and next to that is a gymnasium where all of the athletes used to train. So it's just rocks now. Lifting those would be good training. And that was a whole aspect of Delphi I didn't know about. This was a whole, I mean, it wasn't a city, but it was a thriving community here. And of course, what it's all about, and the reason that I'm here, is for the Oracle of Delphi. Oh my gosh, I forgot to get out my cards. I had my Oracle of Delphi oracle cards that I had drawn one for you, and I forgot to get them out of my bag, so I'm not going to fiddle around now. But I love these cards. They're my favourite cards to use right now, and so I'll put the link below in case you want to check them out. But the Oracle of Delphi has intrigued me for so long, and that's the reason that I have found myself here in Delphi. And I didn't know what to expect. All I knew is that I had to come to Delphi. And so I booked quite a few nights. You know, most people just come here for one night or a day trip from Athens. But I had 5 nights here because I know I want to bring a retreat here next year, which I will be doing. And I just knew I had to have 5 nights. Oh my God. Now I know why. You know, Delphi, the origin of the word Delphi or Delphia is womb. And it is like going into the womb. I mean, you can just see the valley. It's a bit misty this morning. It's been very, very hot, and it's just this haze this morning, so you can't see down the valley the way you normally can. But this land, it really is like, it really opens you up. Almost, it doesn't tear you open, but it opens you up. And I think that's what makes these places so sacred. And I'm sure you have heard that above the Apollo's temple, just down there, above the doorway was, there were 2 things that have been recorded that were written there, and the most commonly known one is know thyself. The other one is nothing in excess. Know thyself. And this is what I feel Delphi does. For me, I have had a couple of days here where I have just been like in full channel mode, and I have been bringing through activations, meditations for my groups, and it's been so powerful. And I'm just like, whoa, expansive, and so much coming through. And then I just crash. Yesterday, I had an intense headache all day. So it was this expansion and then contraction, expansion and contraction. And I mean, isn't that a part of knowing yourself? Isn't that what it is about? That is the journey. And in fact, the card I drew, Odyssey. And the Odyssey card is all about the journey. Yes, in the picture of the card, there's a beautiful temple in the background. You're looking at this magical path to get to this temple, but it's not about the temple. It's about the journey, and it's about the joys, and it's about the despair and all the range of emotions that go through in the journey. But it's also about always seeing the joy and the pleasure and just in being present, to the journey. And that is how you know thyself. That is how, by being present to yourself, by being present to what's going on around you, by allowing what's going on around you to be your guide, to enable you to step forward, to follow the rose petals, as I say. And the more you go in and the deeper understanding you get of yourself, that becomes easier and easier to do. It becomes easier to see the rose petals. It becomes easier to know the next step on your path. Anyway, I didn't really intend to talk about that, but that's what came out. But I do want to share, I have read so much about the history while I've been here. And I love history, and I loved history at school. I studied all sorts of history. It's always fascinated me. But what I'm realizing now, and I think with the awakening we've had, particularly in the last few years, we are aware that life is just made up of stories. And history is one of those stories. It is a recording of an interpretation of events through someone's lens. And when it comes to places like Delphi, there's not that many sources that they're drawing on, and even archaeologists, I mean, there's amazing excavations here, the museum's incredible, but they're still creating a story around that, around what they find. It's all story. Even what I share with you, I was thinking about my last video from the Acropolis, where I was talking about my interpretation of Athena's story connected to Atlantis. Even that is a story. They're all stories. And nothing is actual truth as such, but they are activations. That's what stories are. So when I read the history of Delphi, there are parts that activate me, that take me to the next step, that lead me following the rose petals to the next thing. And there are other parts where I'm like, oh, that's dry, that feels like someone's interpretation, they've got an agenda there. That doesn't resonate for me. But for someone else, that might activate them. So there are codes in all the stories. The stories of the gods, they're codes. And they might activate you now, and you may not even know how they've activated you. But something within you has remembered. You know yourself a little better. And in that remembering, it's easier to take the next step, to follow the next rose petal. So that's what I've done here with reading the stories. What I didn't realize is that before this area, this site was dedicated to Apollo in sort of the Minoan era more. So this was about 800 BC when all the Greek gods made an appearance, came down off Mount Olympus and became a part of the Greek way of life. And that's around the time where this site was dedicated to Apollo. Before that, there was an oracle here, and she was called a Sibyl, and Sibyl means prophetess, and there were Sibyls at different sites around the Mediterranean, North African area. And the Sibyl, actually, you can't see it here, but just down over the other side there is a rock, a huge rock, that obviously this has been an area that's had earthquakes, and which is why the temple's been rebuilt a few times, as well as wars and things. But this rock is believed to have dropped from some land movement here. And that is where the Sibyl, the prophetess, used to channel. And she was channeling Ge. I think it's pronounced Ge, it's Ge, which is Gaia. So Gaia is the earth goddess. And prior to the 800 BC and the Olympic gods, yes, the Greek gods, becoming a part of the Greek way of life and their story, Gaia, Ge was one of the main goddesses, and also Poseidon, but not as god of the ocean, as god of the springs, of the underground waters, of earth movement. And so the Sibyl was channeling the energy of Gaia. So once Apollo claimed this land, and how Apollo did that, the legend is that he killed the python that was protecting the Gaia, was protecting the ancient Greek religions here. Now, what is so fascinating about this? I could just go on and on with this history, so I hope you're interested. What is fascinating about that is that if you know about energy lines, in England, the energy lines are called the Michael-Mary lines. Okay, that's the masculine and feminine energy lines. Once they move into Europe, they're called the Apollo-Athena lines. And the Apollo-Athena lines run beneath here. And Apollo, so in the legend, Apollo, who was still a baby, slayed the python. Because Delphi was called Pythos, I think Pythos, before Delphi. Apollo slayed that. Just like Archangel Michael is often shown slaying the dragon. And what's the dragon and the python or the serpent? That's the ancient female earth energy. So how interesting that at that time, you know, they were the times where the patriarchy was really rising, and that's how it was portrayed in legend. But what was fascinating about that, down here in that temple of Apollo is where the oracle, or she was then, her name changed from the Sibyl to the Pythie, so she still had Python in her name. That's where she was moved to, in a crypt sort of area down there. So, like, really quite fascinating, and I've been exploring that from so many different angles. But I also am mindful not to get caught up in the story and use it as an activation. And obviously this land for me has been a phenomenal activation. Oh my God, I keep thinking, oh, how's it going to be when I come back next year with a group? Like, oh my gosh. Anyway, there's more people arriving now, so I feel like you've heard enough from me. This has been an incredibly sacred place. It's probably been the most powerful place in my almost 4-month journey now. And if you want to see the other sacred sites that I have been to, just have a look below. I've got them all linked, so you can go on the whole journey with me. But this has definitely been the most powerful place, and it was so worth spending a few days here. So I hope maybe you'd be interested in joining me next year. And if so, just make sure you're on my website, jacquelineatkins.com/newsletter. The link's below. And also, if you're interested in those oracle cards, I'll pop the link below because they're fabulous cards. Thanks for joining me today, for joining me on my journey. I've just got 2 more weeks. I'll be in Crete. Not sure if I'll make another video, but if not, once I'm back in Australia, I'll be back here. Bye.